guys, I'm so excited.
So excited.
So excited. We have Piper Phillips on Seeing Other People. Piper, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
We were just talking about this. I feel like you and I have known each other for so long without actually knowing each other.
That's what I love about social media.
Me too.
Like I saw your beautiful wedding photos, which congratulations.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. But this episode is a long time coming, and I feel like there's so much for us to talk about. Can you introduce yourself to those who don't know you?
Yes. My name's Piper Phillips. I am 23, live in New York City.
23?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I know. I don't talk about that a lot. I don't know why I led with that, actually.
What?
Yeah. Did you know that?
No, I knew you were younger than me, but I thought you were like 26.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually like never say my age, so it's very interesting that I said my age first.
Oh my God.
Yes. So I'm a young, like I skipped a grade. So
Okay.
I feel like I've always been like an old soul, and like my friends were always a little bit older, and I'm really close with my parents. But yeah, I am a baby still in the scheme of New Yorkers. But I'm a full-time content creator as of very recently. Also weird for me to say that. And marketing strategist, and I've lived in New York 2 years.
That is so, I'm so mind blown right now.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by you.
Thank you.
Like when I was 23, period. Like I can't even continue that. But and not to say like you're not going to still like grow and change in your 20s, but when I was 23, I had no idea who I was. I was making every bad decision after bad decision. I was not at all comfortable in my own skin. And I feel like you, of course, like you still have life to figure out, but you are so like wise beyond your years. You radiate positivity and inspire so many people. And I'm like blown away right now.
You just made my day. Thank you. Thank
I'll be
you.
here all day.
Wow.
Wow.
No, that means like a lot. And I actually really don't talk about my age a lot because I feel like it was something, especially like in my previous job, that I almost was like embarrassed about, just for not being taken seriously. And yeah, I mean, we can get into all of that, but yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Did people you worked with know that you were 23 or even like 22 at the time?
So I'm actually like not sure
Okay.
if they knew my age.
Yeah.
So throughout college, I went to Indiana University. I did their direct admit Kelley School of Business program there, from Chicago originally. And I worked, like I always was working starting sophomore year through junior, through senior, summer and school. I had internships. So I got a lot of professional experience really young. And I was in a business fraternity, which is so nerdy, but helped me develop a lot, like just professionally. And so when I got my job, I got connected to the CEO and founder through just a mutual acquaintance friend that I knew from LinkedIn who introduced us. And by way of introduction, he was really just talking about my past experience. We never really talked about my graduation year. And I did take my graduation year off my resume, which is very hot take. And so I never lied about it. Like I would never lie about the timeline.
Right. But if they asked, but it never came up.
But it never came up.
Wow. Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you. So you were probably working above a lot of people who were older than you.
Yes, actually. So that's kind of tea. When I came into the company, which I'm no longer there, I was there for almost 2 years, loved it, especially my first year, absolutely loved it. But I was brought in to manage someone who was older than me and had been there for a year. And that was really tough. Like as a first managerial experience, that was really hard.
I feel like if you can get through that, you can get through anything.
Thank you. God, I hope so. Because that was not fun.
What were you like growing up? Like would 13-year-old Piper be surprised where 23-year-old Piper is?
No. 13-year-old Piper is like, wait, we're not like super famous yet?
I love that.
She would be like,
you like are. People definitely stop you on the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's so fun.
Okay.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Well, it's always like people like us. It's like us, but a few years behind us, like younger girls. And hearing that is always the best part where they're like, I moved to New York because of you. I'm like, oh my God, I could cry.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Did you always plan to move right to New York?
Yes. Yeah. So I always knew growing up, my uncle lived in Flatiron, so I would come visit him. I remember like begging my mom to take me with when she would visit him. And I just remember being like, the second I can move here, I'm going to move here. I always loved the city growing up. I love Chicago, but New York just has that certain je ne sais quoi energy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Do you go back to Chicago often?
I do, yeah, but it's not New York.
Yeah. So you live with your boyfriend.
Yes.
When did you guys meet and how did you meet?
We met okay, now that we're being honest about timelines, we like
Yeah, it's also rare for a 23-year-old to live with her boyfriend.
I know. And I like I'm very passionate about this. I never thought I was going to be the girl that was going to move in with her boyfriend like that close after graduating. Yeah. Not that type of person. I'm very independent. Like I have most of the time I like to have my shit together. I like to put my career first. That was always how I thought of myself and still is. But I met Will the end of junior year of college, like 10 days before school ended. Mm-hmm. So we just celebrated our 3 years last week.
Oh my God. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
How did you meet?
Oh, I love this story. I love this story. Okay, so I was in my fun phase, was not looking for a boyfriend, and I would do these things like I like to call them $0 nights.
Oh my God.
Which is like exactly what it sounds
Just
like.
getting people to buy you drinks.
Yeah.
Dad.
Like we would go out and I'd be like, how can I spend $0 tonight? So I usually wasn't this bold about it. Usually it would just happen. It was like friends of a friends or guys like would come up to me and my friends. But I was at this music venue that we went to a lot. It was like one of the actually only like cool, not really fratty places on IU's campus. Mm-hmm. And I just saw him from across the room and I like don't know what happened. Like I was not buzzed. I was like sober at that point, but I like mentally blacked out. I just went up to him and
Something
I said,
like came over you.
Something like came over me. And I was like, do you want to buy me a drink?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah. High five.
And now that was a high five. I'm like, we need it.
And now 3 years in.
Yeah. And that was that.
Wow.
So that was right before junior year ended, like 10 days before school ended. And he's from Indiana. So I'm from Chicago.
Right.
And he was supposed to be living in Ohio that summer for a job. So that's a 6-hour driving distance. And I, again, was not looking for a boyfriend. I cannot emphasize that fact enough. But I was like, well, shit, I really like you. I need to figure out if you're worth talking to, like long distance for 3 months. It was just an instant connection. Like I wanted to figure out. So we went on a date the next day after we met and it was instant connection that I knew like, okay, you're worth talking to.
Do you remember how you went from like him buying you a drink at the bar to like, let's go on a date tomorrow?
Yes. So he bought me a drink at the bar, which is, again, a funny part of the story. I didn't like know this because it was dark. He had a full Stella in his hand. So he tells the story like he literally like walked by his friend and they did like a handoff of like him taking the beer. And so I said like, oh, thank you. I'm Piper. Nice to meet you. And he was like, I know who you are.
Do you?
And I was so taken aback by that. I was like, okay, well, thank you. Like, I'm flattered. And turns out we had class together and I was a big yapper in class. So he was like, we had marketing together. You were the girl that was like doing class from Paris because at the time I was abroad.
Oh my God.
The story has so many layers, you guys. I was abroad and I was doing class online and everyone would be like in their basement in Indiana and I'd be like on my balcony in Paris. So I looked like a big a-hole.
Yep.
Yeah, and so then we just chatted all night. I remember like dancing. I remember very vividly him dancing and talking to my friends too, which not in a bad way, in a very good way, like in the greenest flag way. Because you know how it is. I feel like you used to meet guys at bars and they just like want one thing and you can kind of tell.
Right. Or especially in college, it was competitive, even with your friends.
Yeah.
Like me and my friends all liked the same exact guys.
Wait, where did you go to school again?
Syracuse.
Okay, so was it smaller? How big was it there?
It's like 15,000 undergrad, but I was in a sorority and there were 60 girls in my pledge class.
Yeah.
And we would have frat parties and there'd be like twice as many girls than guys. And everyone would like the same 5 guys.
Yeah, because I feel like there are more beautiful, amazing girls than guys out there in college. Like I feel like sometimes the guys take a little longer to develop. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just remember being like, okay, this guy is interesting. It's the first person who's been remotely interesting to me like all year. And he asked for my phone number, not my Snapchat, which is also a very green flag at the time, mature. Today, I feel like that's an expectation. But like 3 years ago, like people were still asking for Snapchats.
Yeah.
And then I just like ghosted. I left in the middle of the night. My friends were like, let's go get pizza. And after dancing with him all night, I just left.
You're just like, bye.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he texted me and he was like, hey, like, where'd you go? And I was like, oh, sorry. Like, you were great, but like pizza was like up here. Like he was fine. But like, you know, when you have a couple drinks and you're like, pizza. And so then I texted him the next day and I was like, do you want to come over for a drink?
Wow.
So I was bold twice in a row, actually, now that I'm telling this story.
Were you ever bold like that with guys before?
Yes, but I never... The asking, like, basically asking him on a first date thing was new for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was always kind of cheeky and, like, sometimes accidentally flirtatious, even when I, like, didn't really mean to be, just because I'm a very, like, bold and direct person. But I'd never done that before. Yeah.
Did he, like, in hindsight, have you talked to him about his first impressions of you once he met you and, like, what he thought of that?
Yes. So it's actually really cute. He apparently had his eye on me, but just we never ran into each other, never talked, because I was in Europe. I wasn't on campus. And then he tells a story that actually a couple weeks before that happened, like 2 weeks before we met, we happened to both be at the same, like, Mexican margarita bar. Like, it was like a Mexican restaurant that, like, turned into, like, kind of a club bar. And he says that I was there with my friend and we corroborated this. We actually went on Snapchat, saw our pictures. We were there the same night, same exact time. I was kind of talking to the bartender at that point. So we never talked. And he says, I don't know if this is true or if he just is talking a big game, but he says that he was, like, talking to his friends. He was like, I'm going to go up to her and say hi. And then he went to the bathroom to, like, I don't know, hype himself up before. And then I left.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is very invisible string.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's kind of a cute story. But it was, yeah, that's how it happened.
So you decided to keep talking over the summer?
Yes, he visited me, actually, stayed with my family, and then we got a hotel the other night, which is, like, crazy that we'd only known each other for 10 days at that point. Yeah.
At what point did you think, like, this is the real deal? Or even just, like, this is going to go beyond college?
Yeah. It was honestly not for a couple months. No, so I had a really unhealthy relationship freshman year of college. So I just knew that I never wanted to lose myself in a relationship again. I'm really thankful, actually, I had that experience, like, pretty early on. Mm-hmm. So I really wasn't, like, looking for or considering anything serious when I met Will. Like, my parents got married later. I always just didn't think that I was going to have a serious relationship until, like, I was, like, in my late 20s or 30s.
What happened in that unhealthy relationship that changed you?
Oh, I've, like, never talked about this, but I want to.
Okay. You don't have to.
No, I've been wanting, like, I have never made TikToks or anything about this, but I feel like I should because it was huge for me. Yeah. I always was just, like, a very self-assured, strong person growing up, and I found myself in this 8-month Barkley's my support animal.
Yeah.
Right, in this
he
8-month
right now.
relationship where this person was very controlling and definitely veered into the emotionally abusive category of just saying things, comments about what I was wearing, comments about, like, me and how other people would treat me. No one would ever love me as much as this guy loved me. Just, like, very much so. When you hear that for 8 months, no matter how strong of a person you are, you hear that over and over again. Like, it starts to get to you.
You believe it.
Yeah, you believe it. And my family and my high school friends, my mom was like, they basically gave me an intervention. They're like, you're not you. Your sparkle's gone. Like, I've never seen you be so just, like, insecure and down on yourself. I ended up, like, seeing a therapist again. I'd stopped seeing a therapist and went back to a therapist, got medication. Like, it was a really big thing. So that was rough.
Did you know when you were going through it that this was a bad situation, or were you so in it that you were just so attaching your worth to him and couldn't think about leaving?
I was really in it in the beginning because it was classic love bombing. Like, he was older than me. We had mutual friends. Like, we were part of similar organizations. He was really great on paper. And then about 3 months in, my logical side of my brain, like, there was always part of me that was like, this is not how we deserve to be treated. He never, like, physically laid a hand on me, but it was just, like, every telltale sign. Also, like, punching walls, like, road rage, just, like, horrible things. So I knew it wasn't right, but also it's just, like, the naive of them then, like, apologizing and saying it'll be different. It's never different.
It's never different. And you so badly want to believe it because you saw the good side of them. You're like,
yeah.
Well, I know they're capable of treating me the way I want to be treated. I know they're capable of being the way they say they can be.
Exactly.
Because I've seen it. I've lived it.
Yeah.
But you never get back there.
Especially when you're so young. It's not your job to fix someone. And I don't think maybe it's ever your job to fix someone, but I remember my mom telling me, she's like, because we would be fighting a lot and then we would fix it. And my mom's like, what are you fighting about? Like, you are 21 years old, 22 years old. Not
No,
even
you
at
were
that point.
like
I was 19
or
and 20.
19
Yes,
freshman year, yeah.
yes. And I was younger, so I was definitely 18 and he was 20, I think. She was like, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have kids, you're not married. What? Like, she's like, what are you fighting about? Like, you shouldn't be fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Did your friends try and point out to you, like, this isn't good, Piper?
Yeah, it was. So my high school friends and I were very close, and they kind of knew, and they had actually heard murmurings because he was from a town near our hometown, to the point where some people actually went up to one of my high school friends and was like, just so you know, like, that guy was emotionally abusive to his ex-girlfriend.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Wait, you're gonna love this. And so, okay, so things started to go downhill. My family was like, you need to get out of this. My friends were like, you need to get out of this. It was a weird time, though, because it was right when we were doing sorority rush freshman year. So then I joined this sorority and I had all these new friends who didn't really like me. So they or like know me or like me because I was like a miserable version of myself. Like, I was depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then thank God, like, when I came home for school, my family had that like intervention with me and I broke up with him, to the point where, and I would never advise this for someone who treated you right, but I was so like mentally down bad that I had a mutual friend who went to high school with his ex-girlfriend. She was in my sorority. And I was like, do you think like you could connect us? I know this is really weird, but I have just heard about this girl. Apparently she was an amazing person. And he always told me that she cheated on him and made her out to be this horrible person. And I had heard from other girls that she was actually a great person. And I was like, I was so pissed at this guy. I was like, I don't owe him anything. Like, let's get lunch. So I got lunch with his other ex-girlfriend.
I do love that so much.
Yeah.
And was it amazing? Was she great?
Oh, she was great. I mean, don't get me wrong. This was like a week after we broke up. So it was hard to hear that everything that I had been through, everything that he told me, like, he told her too. But she never cheated on him. Like, not everything he said to make himself look good was 100% fabricated, and she was a lovely girl. And it's funny, he's married now, and I hadn't heard from her in 2 years, and she texted me pictures from his wedding on Facebook.
Oh my God.
She was like, look.
That is funny. It's like you see that and you gotta hope that, like, for the girl's sake, like, hopefully he's changed. But
or maybe she's crazy too.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope they're happy. Nothing but the best. I do think people can change. But that was great for personal growth.
Yeah. We love growth. We love growth. Yeah. Speaking of growth, part of the reason I was so excited to talk to you, and I'm so excited for the Seeing Other People family to get to know you, is because you have this way about how you approach life, at least it seems from my perspective, where you make the most of everything. You make the most of every situation. You make the most of living in New York City. You just approach life in such a beautiful way. And I know a lot of people listening to this feel really overwhelmed by not even necessarily dating in a place like New York City or a big city, but even just like meeting people and going to new places and trying new things. And I'm curious how you ended up this way and what advice you would give to somebody who wants to, you know, step out of their comfort zone, grow within the place they're at, but doesn't know where to begin.
Yeah. Wow. Great question. Love this topic. The first thing I will say, and I always want to say this because I think it's very important, I was very privileged the way that I grew up. I'm very close with my family. I'm so thankful to have a loving family that supported me, supported my education. Like, that's something I'll never take for granted. So I say that because it is important to note that having that strong foundation made me feel a little bit safer taking risks and putting myself out there. So I will never deny that. I think that's a really important part about the way that I grew up. But with that said, I feel like I always was just someone that tried to actively think of like the why not me mentality, or like, why wouldn't things work out, rather than I feel like sometimes in our society we're conditioned to think of like the negatives first. I always was just like, well, why not me? Like, someone's got to get the job, or someone's got to be successful doing this. Like, I got a good shot at it. Like, why not? So that was a thing that I had just trained myself to think that way and was instilled in me from an early age. And I think I definitely have built like my perception of life around that.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
And I've like Never heard anyone say that before.
Oh, maybe I should say that more.
You should absolutely say that more because it can apply to every aspect of life, and it's true.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe it won't happen, but it could.
It could.
It'll happen to someone.
Why not me?
Why not you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's something to be said. Like, it's self-awareness too. Like, there are some things where I'm like, this is not my area of expertise. Someone else is going to excel in that area. But when you know your strengths, it's like, okay, why not give 100% into giving it a shot, whatever you're good at. Everyone has special talents. So I think we owe it to ourselves to develop those.
Absolutely. You go to a lot of events. I know a lot of people are feeling very like swipe fatigue, dating app burnout, and they want to try and go to events, but it's like the scariest thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
I even get anxiety when I've had to go to influencer events alone.
Oh my God,
like,
yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who like wants to go to a speed dating event, wants to go to a singles event, or even a networking event, but is so terrified to do that?
Yeah. Like feel the fear and do it anyway. There are times where I get nervous still too, but I think it really helps to zoom out and think like, just take it to the worst place first. Be like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Like someone shoots me a dirty look and I feel insecure. I feel uncomfortable because I'm not talking to anyone right now. Okay, then I leave. And then that's that. And at least I did something brave today. And I know that's like a tough love answer, but like you just got to do it. And the more you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, the more you're going to grow. There are still times where I feel uncomfortable, whether it's at events in person or it's online. If I post something really vulnerable and maybe it like doesn't get the reception that I had hoped, I'm like, okay, if I feel that discomfort, that means I'm growing. So it's a good thing.
Ugh, I need this mindset. I like need you to rub off on me. I really do. I feel like I'm so quick to stop myself from doing something because of the what if. But you're right. Like, answer the what if. And, like, the worst thing is not terrible in most situations.
I also feel like I grew up with a lot of, like, mean girls and intimidating environments in high school that I've just had to learn to, like, accept it.
Were you cool in high school?
No.
Me either.
No. Most successful people were
I feel
cool.
like none of us were. Like,
no.
None of us were at all.
I mean, like, I had friends and, like, boys liked me and it was fine, but I was not cool.
Yeah.
Like played music. I wasn't like on a big sports team. Like I was not cool.
Like I was in my room making YouTube videos.
It paid off, baby.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me about moving in with Will. Because someone actually wrote in a question about moving with their boyfriend.
Ooh, let's hear it.
It said, my boyfriend and I have been dating for 2 years and we're about to move in together. I'm hella nervous because I always value my independence and space. I'm admittedly a little OCD and I know that I like things the way that I like them. I do know I'll have to make compromises and want him to feel at home because it's his home too, but I know this is going to be a really big challenge for me. What's the best way for us or me to approach this new chapter together?
Great question. I'm the same way. I like things the way I like things. I'm not a clean person, but I'm particular, and I would say I'm high maintenance. I will say it. So I was nervous about it, and I'm glad to circle back to this because I did not plan on moving in with Will. Like I never thought that I was gonna be a girl that moved in with her boyfriend so early. We can get into the story of how it happened, but when it was happening, I just told myself. I remember talking with my mom that like I'm so young still. This could go in 1,000 different directions. I could live with this man for the rest of my life, and I hope maybe I get to. But, like, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just going to roll with the punches as I do it, and I'm going to be really clear about communicating my boundaries, what's important to me, and what are things that I just need to be self-aware about being flexible with. So that's one thing. The second thing, I think I have had more time for friends and more time for self-development because I live with my boyfriend, not the other way around. I was really scared because I knew some girls who moved in with their boyfriend and then you never see them again. And it's like they're obsessed and they're all of a sudden they've turned into like, you know, a housewife basically, which I do want to be one day, but not when you're in your early 20s. So I was so adamant about not doing that. I think it actually gave me more time for my friends and for networking events and career stuff. At the time I was working literally a 7 to 7. It was at a startup. And then at night, I would go out to events and have influencer events and brand events. And so I sometimes was gone for like 11 hours during the day. And it was so nice knowing that I'm coming home to my person. And I could say yes to all the things. I could say yes to friend things. I could say yes to influencer things because I knew like, oh, I don't have to like say no to these things because I haven't seen my boyfriend in days. Like even though there's a difference between quality time and seeing someone, it was always so nice knowing I'm going to see you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Did you guys make it a priority to still like maintain like date nights and stuff like that?
Yes. Wait, do you know about my living situation the first year?
With your friend? You lived with your friend? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, wait, let's hear about that.
Yes. I lived with one of my best friends from college and my boyfriend for the first year in New York City in a 1-bedroom.
How did that decision come into play?
I was supposed to move in with one of my best friends, Vivi. We lived together senior year. That was always our plan, to move to New York together. And Will was also planning to move to New York, something that was very important to me that I asked him on our first date, because I was like, phew, okay, I don't want someone to move for me. Mm-hmm. And I said, I love you, but this is not Piper and Will moving to New York. This is Piper moving to New York and Will moving to New York, and I happen to love you and want to see you. So that was that. I was supposed to move in with Vivi. Will was supposed to move in with his business partner. Him and his business partner broke up.
Oh, okay.
And Vivi had wanted us to get an apartment earlier, when I was actually supposed to like get an Airbnb with Will while Vivi was still in Europe. Stay with me here, guys. And so then Vivi was actually like, well, why don't we all three of us just live together for 2 months while we figure it out? It'll be fun. We'll find a cheaper place. This was her idea. And we all kind of were like, I mean, I was like, if you're cool with it. Like, we were all friends in college, all went to the same college together. And the 3 months turned into the full year.
That's unreal. Yeah. What kind of apartment setup was this?
It was a big 1-bedroom
okay.
that we then flexed.
Okay.
They flexed it for us. It was not like a partition wall. It was a legit wall with a door and a lock.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But it got a lot of internet clickbait because people are like, throuple?
Well, so funny enough, I actually lived with my best friend and her now husband.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
So you get it.
I get it.
You get it.
So fun.
So fun.
Like, hot take, more people should do this.
It's like a sitcom. It's like How I Met Your Mother.
Literally.
Yeah.
I was living with my best friend, Jessie. She's one of my best childhood friends. And I, over time, like, moved into her apartment. Like, I thought I was moving to LA. This is after my first 2 years in New York City.
Wow.
My lease ended at my, like, Murray Hill postgrad apartment. And I thought I was moving to LA, so I like didn't try and get a place to live. And until I like figured out my moving date, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like sleep on people's couches. Like, I have a friend going to Israel for 10 days. My cousin's going away for work. Like, my friends and family just kept like giving me their keys and their homes. And so I did that for a little while. And I started staying at Jessie's like once a week. And then once turned into twice a week, which turned into 3 times a week, which turned into like, let's just move you in. So I ended up moving into her apartment with her, and we lived together for 2 years, the two of us, which at the time she was in a long distance relationship with this guy who's also from our town. And so I've also known him since like elementary school, middle school. And the 3 of us would like start going on vacations together. I would go with her to Charlotte, North Carolina to visit. The 3 of us went to Asheville together. We went to Montreal together. We went to Charleston together. Like, the 3 of us in a hotel room. Yeah. Like, on a throuple vacation.
And that was just normal.
Our group chat is called throuple.
Wait, that's so funny.
And it came time for him to leave Charlotte and move to New York City. And she was like, so like, I think he's going to move in with us. Is that okay? And I'm like, that's preferred. Yeah. And we all lived together for like a year and change. And it was during COVID, so there was a lot of like back and forth, but it was so fun. Yeah. And it made me, I feel like just having a guy friend to talk to. Like, this was also like when I met Jake. So this was like the year leading up to me meeting Jake. And so getting his perspective on things was so fun. And it was all amazing.
Yeah. Did you ever, because this is so interesting, you were in the opposite situation. Did you ever feel like a third wheeler left out? Okay, good.
And you know what is weird? Like, when I was single, I was always like, so like, I'm single. I'm going to be single forever. My life sucks. Like, I was very much in my feels and down bad all the time. And I think if it were anyone else, like if it were any other couple, like they're so cuddly. We're laying on the couch. They're on top. They're like laying on each other. They're the most like cuddly, like clinging to each other people. Couple. But for some reason, it never bothered me with them.
I mean, because you love your friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes like she wouldn't be there and me and him would hang out. Yeah. And sometimes he wouldn't be there and me and her would hang out. So it was, I never felt like a third wheel.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Vivi says the same thing. Yeah. Which is really important to me because, well, it's funny. Will sometimes says, he's like, sometimes I felt like I was the third wheel. I was like,
I'm sure.
Damn right.
Yeah. Yeah. We would say all the time, like, I mean, we're going to watch like a Disney Channel movie. You can either stay or not.
Yes.
Like, that's on you.
Yes.
But this is what we want to do. And it was our apartment first.
Yeah, true. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. But no, I love it. I highly recommend it.
No, it was great. We actually considered doing another victory lap year, and then we were like, maybe not.
No.
Like, what?
Yeah.
That was great. But yeah.
Yeah. They gave a speech together at mine and Jake's wedding, which was
That's
awesome.
so cute.
Yeah, it was.
Love that.
Okay, so what advice would you give in
yeah.
just general in terms of like moving in together, that transition?
Yes.
And was anything different when it went from being the three of you to the two of you?
Honestly, it was great. I've heard horror stories, and it was really easy. I will say, Will, when you watch this, that man is so patient. My mom every day is like, this man is so patient. Like, she's like, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Like, I can be a handful.
Mm-hmm.
And he is so grounded and so patient and doesn't let me walk over him. That's something that's really important because I've had boyfriends in the past that let me walk over them. He does not let me walk over him, but he is very patient and firm with his boundaries. But luckily, he doesn't have as strong as feelings of things that I do.
Uh-huh.
The one thing where I suck is I'm messy and he's very organized. So advice-wise, like, find out what your partner really cares about and work to be better at that, because I need to be better about the organizational thing.
I love that.
Yeah, that's honestly, like, we don't really fight about any apartment things, but there has been times where he'll sit me down, he's a really good communicator, and he'll be like, this is really overwhelming for me, and I'm like, shit, I'm sorry, like, I need to be better about it.
And that is the best way to do it, because he could be like, Piper, like, clean your shit up, like, this is getting out of hand, but instead he's like, this is making me feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I don't want him to feel overwhelmed. Like, that there's something I can do about that.
Yes. And so I think that's really important, is just open communication and being self-aware about what you're bad at, honestly, because no one's perfect. No one's a perfect roommate.
No, I think that's a really good idea. Whenever, like, there will be certain things that Jake does in the apartment that I'm like,
Like, wait, like what?
but I try and approach it in like a cheeky way where I'm like, is this a good time for feedback? And he's like, no. Or usually he's like, yes. And I'm like, can you not put your jeans on the kitchen chair when you come home from work? It's just like really annoying to me that your jeans are just like there. And he's like, I understand. I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank
And that's it. Like,
And that's
I literally every time I just say, is this a good time for feedback?
Yeah. That is, I'm going to use that line. Is this
funny.
a good time?
It's
But it's
funny.
so true, though. I read this statistic about most couples fighting when they live together is within like the 30-minute window when one of the spouses was at home and the other spouse comes home. Because there have been times where I'll be stressed about something and I'll come home and Will will be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, I just walked in. I'm still like annoyed about this phone call that I just got off of. Like, can you like give me some time?
Yeah.
So I like
100%.
the check-in vibe that you do.
It's good because sometimes like you don't want the feedback right now. Like, you've had a bad day and you don't want to be told what you're doing wrong.
And I had a lot of roommate anxiety when I lived with a big group. I did not like that.
Yeah.
And I'm a
It's
pretty
tough.
direct, some may say confrontational, but I think it's with love way. And I lived with some people who were very, not passive aggressive, but just hated conflict to a fault, where a lot of things got swept under the rug until, of course, one day you snap and you can't take it anymore. So that was really tough for me. And I do feel like living with one person, especially when it's the person you love, is actually a lot less anxiety inducing than living with like 6 other girls.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it's important to not like what you said about figuring out what you're bad at or figuring out your weaknesses, but also like figure out, you know, yourself. Like, what do you need? What do you need? Do you need you time?
Yes, I'm so glad you say that. Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid to ask for that if you know that you need it.
Exact. And I think everyone should have alone time. Will travels a lot for work these days, and I've actually been traveling a lot the past 6 months too. So I'm always really sad when he goes away, but it's good because I feel like you should always be able to have that time away so you don't develop a codependency. Yeah. So at the time of recording this, I've been home. Will's been on a 6-day work trip, and it has been nice having alone time. Just be with your thoughts.
And that is such a green flag that you feel like comfortable with that. I know for me, in like literally every past relationship or situationship that I was in, anytime the person would be gone, it would be instant like anxiety for me. Like, are they really where they say they are? Like, what are they doing? Like, I would just spiral because I didn't fully trust them.
Wow. I will say I have anxiety too. And I think it's just something you have to like work through. I trust like trust my boyfriend, but it's more just like I've never lived alone. Have you lived alone ever?
I did.
Okay. I think it's so cool that you did that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that. So when I have anxiety, it's not, I had to check in with myself and I'm like, shit, I don't want to be the girl that's anxious when her boyfriend leaves. But I was like, well, it's actually just because I'm anxious that I'm going to be alone with my thoughts for 7 days.
I never thought I would be the person to be alone. But so after that year with Jesse and Blaze, like they travel a lot. And so the times that I was always sad when they would leave, but then I really enjoyed being by myself too. And then I was so excited for them to come back. But that taught me like, oh, like I can be on my own.
Yeah.
And so I ended up living in this apartment alone for the first year.
Oh, wow.
And I loved it. And I think it was such growth for me because prior to that, like if let's say it was like a Thursday or even Friday night where I didn't have plans, I would like internalize that as like, wow, nobody wants to spend time with me.
Yes.
But maybe I didn't even try and make plans.
Mm-hmm.
And now I love a Friday night, me, Barkley, the couch, a good movie. Amazing.
Perfect. I also feel like, I don't know if you feel this way too, but like being freelance, being a content creator, like there's so many weeknight events where it kind of messed me up in the head for a little bit, where especially when right after I quit my job, like I was in full yes mode. There were weeks where I would have events every single night of the week, which turned into drinking alcohol every single night of the week. And I just kind of took a moment and I was like, you know, I think I'm ready to start saying no to things because this is like not how I want to live my life. Which has also redefined the way that I view the weekends then. I'm like, okay, it's good to have some alone time, some self-care time.
All right, ready for some questions?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Okay, I pulled this one actually specifically for you. I knew I had this and I went back into the archives to find it. I just got laid off from my job and I feel like this makes dating really complicated. One of the first things that people will ask on an app or on a date is, what do you do for a living? I understand that getting laid off is a part of life that a lot of people go through, and it doesn't make me less than, but it's still a major blow to my ego and I do feel embarrassed about it. I found that I've been avoiding dating because I don't know how to approach this or answer that question. Please help.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps. First of all, I'm so sorry, and it's so cliche, but everything happens for a moment, like for a reason, in a moment in time. And I just know that when one door closes, it's because something better is coming your way, even though it doesn't feel like that in the moment. It sucks. I have struggled with that a little bit as well. So I chose to quit my job in the end of last year in December, but it was not an easy choice. Like I was really unhappy for like, I don't know, half a year. And so, yes, I know it's not exactly the same because I quit, but what was the same was that period after where you don't know what you're doing and you realize how reliant we are on titles of what you do. So I don't have a perfect answer to this except for the fact that I just got really comfortable saying, I'm figuring it out. I'm taking some time to figure it out. And I think in the context of dating, thankfully, we've become a lot more open about these things. And I think the right person, if you just say, I'm figuring it out, or you say I got laid off, I actually think that's a great way to screen people kind of quick.
Yeah, that's
right?
really true.
Like it's a total ego blow. Like it was an ego blow for me too, just to be like, yeah, I'm unemployed. Like you can twist it how you want, but like at the end of the day, it still is like, you know, there's some self-consciousness I had there. But I think it's a good way to see who is actually a genuine person and who's like not in it for the labels. Who wants to actually get to know like what you care about, not just, you know, your title on paper.
Yeah, it's your story to tell, so own it. You know, you can say you got laid off or not, or you can say you're in between jobs, whatever you want. But I think saying, you know, you really want to find the right next move. So you're taking time to figure out like what you're really passionate about, or you're trying to find the right job, not just any job.
Yes. And I think I love the way that we have become more accepting of that. When you get laid off, most of the time it's not your fault. Yeah. It's literally just a symptom of our macroeconomic situation. And so I think most people understand that, but I think figure out for you how you want to tell the story and what feels the most comfortable to you. So like I turned my unemployment into fun employment, which is, yes, very trivial, whatever, but it worked for me. It made me stay on the positive side. So figure out, I would say, whatever story you want to tell, especially if you're going on first dates. You don't need to tell your full life story if you don't want to. Like, I love what you said. Just say you're in between jobs or say you're figuring it out.
Yeah. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And I honestly don't think I know more than like 5 people in my life who have not been laid off at this point.
No, literally. It's, I mean, our generation, we hop around jobs like way more than any previous generation.
Yeah.
So I just hope if you're listening to this, you can just find some comfort in the fact that, like, I know how it feels to not have an answer to that question, and it sucks.
Same.
But it's so normal.
Yeah. I really was hoping you were going to say we hop around jobs like bunnies.
Oh my God. I don't know why. Like little bunnies. We just hop around.
You're a little
find the
bunny.
carrots
You're a
as you
little
come
bunny.
and go. But it really did make me realize how, like, it's insane. The first question people ask is, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I realized, like, when it's hard to articulate who you are as a person without using a title, but I think it's something that everyone should, like, reflect about. I know I have.
Yeah. It's also, like, keep in mind, for the most part, they probably don't care what you do. They're just asking because it's easy conversation to make, and it's a normal question to ask.
Exactly. Like, they probably don't care, actually, as much as you, like, are caring about it right now.
Yeah.
As wild as that is to say. It's
Yeah.
true.
You could even respond and be like, I'm in marketing.
Yeah.
And then if they ask, like, what you do, oh, it's a better story for in person.
Yeah.
Boom. Now you get them on a date.
Yeah.
Done.
I think that's
Kill two birds with one stone.
that is the best way to go about it. Just deflect it to them.
Deflect.
Deflect.
Hi, mazel's on your wedding. Thank you.
Aww.
Kind of a long question. So I went on 2 amazing dates with this guy who lives in New York City and I'm in Texas. After the last date, we texted for a bit and then he didn't respond to my last text. I know that a week later he's traveling to Europe. He didn't text me on my birthday, which was just now, July 4th, but I had a great time with him. Should I double text him and say, hey, just checking in, hope your travels are so fun? He also updated his Bumble to traveling through London and Scandinavia. Normally, I would never double text, but I'm trying to operate by being bold. Do you have any advice?
That's a tough one. I love the boldness. This is what I would do. Send one more text. His reaction will determine everything.
Agreed.
Like, if he sends a full paragraph and is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I've been so busy. If he knew it was your birthday, he better say happy belated birthday. But if it's like a lukewarm response, then I would say it's done. Then it turns from being bold to chasing. And I've done that. There was like one guy in college who I had this situation with, and I'm like, I cringe when I look back at it because he like was so lukewarm about it and I was more into it. And so see what that response is, and I would go from there. What about you?
I completely agree. I was also going to say, like, send one more text. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But know that if they respond, if they don't respond, like, whatever it is, like, there's your answer.
Totally.
Like, you can't keep doing the, oh, well, they're busy. Like, just don't keep making excuses for them. But I agree. Like, if they respond and they're really receptive and continuing the conversation, great. Then they have just been busy and traveling. But if it's like, hey, yeah, it's been good. Like, how's it going? No, you deserve more than that.
You definitely deserve more than that. Ugh.
Yeah. But I'm all for being bold.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to end things for my own happiness. How do I do this without feeling like a jerk? It's my first time being on this end of things.
I feel like it depends how long they've been together, number one, how deep they got emotionally. Like, I know time doesn't determine everything, but there is a difference if you'd been just like seeing someone for 2 months versus 2 years, right? So preface that. I feel like honesty is the best policy. It's like cruel to be kind, that old song and saying. Like, if you care about someone, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. You're not a jerk for wanting to end things. Like,
No.
If for your own happiness, well, guess what? Like, ultimately, if you stay in this relationship and you're not happy, they're not going to be happy either.
Yeah.
You're both not going to be happy together.
Yeah.
It's not your fault that it's not working out. You tried it. You gave it your best shot. And some relationships are just supposed to be one chapter of your book and not the whole story.
Oh, I love that.
Just be honest, be gentle, be kind, and know that it would be a disservice to both of you to stay in this relationship.
Yes, exactly. Because you're preventing actually them and yourself from finding the person you're really meant to be with.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I thought this was a good one for you because you definitely get a lot of messages and comments. And I know for me, I struggle with like responding to them all sometimes. Somebody said advice for not getting overwhelmed with responses on online dating. I often just stop responding. Same. It's really bad.
I go into like avoidant behavior too. Like,
Yeah.
I will feel so bad. It'll be someone I like care about or like a family member, and it will wake me up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't respond to their text from 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Then I feel like a jerk.
Yep.
I feel like it's become very normalized to just say that you get overwhelmed by messages.
Yeah.
So I always do that. Like if I find myself having not responded to something, the first thing I say is like, I'm so sorry. Like I mentally responded to this and then didn't like get to it. Totally my bad. So take ownership of it. And two, if you really care, like in a dating situation, I just think it's always best to go on that date. To like actually grab a drink, go on a walk, whatever it is you want to do. I was never a fan of like the texting back and forth. I just think it's like better to actually like connect with the person rather than message back and forth.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, no, I agree. So maybe it's about limiting the number of matches you have at one time and just focusing on like one or two at a time and getting to the date with those people. That way you're not being inundated with messages.
Yeah, or stack up the dates, baby, if that's what makes you happy. Like my mom was always like, I remember in my 20s, I would have like one date every other day. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Good. I'm like, good for you.
What is the best advice you've gotten from your mom?
Oh, she's amazing. Okay, maybe this is just because where my brain is at, but my mom taught me to never chase a man and to not be clingy, because she, of her own admission, said that she was really clingy in dating when she was in her 20s. And she's like, I just scared all these men away because I came on way too strong. And she's like, I didn't develop as solid of self-confidence as early as you did. So I was, you know, kind of insecure. And my dad was definitely like a wild card. We'll put it like that. And she says, if I would have met your dad 3 years earlier, I would have scared him away because I would have come on too strong. I needed to learn how to play the slow game, to be bold and then to be like, okay, walking away. So she really taught me how to stand my ground and how to not like, you know, fawn over someone.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How did your parents meet?
Very similar to how me and Will met. They met in a bar in Chicago. My dad was on a date with another woman.
Shut up.
Another woman.
Oh my God.
And my mom's, they like see each other from across the room. And apparently they just keep looking at each other. And then my dad comes up to my mom when the woman's in the bathroom. And he's like, I know you see him here with another girl, but she's visiting from Montreal. She doesn't live here. She barely speaks English. Like, it's just for fun. I would love to see you again. And my mom's like, yeah, whatever. Like, player, I don't know. The next night, a different bar, they run into each other again.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And that was that. And they were older. Like I think my mom was 29 when they met. My dad was 30, and they dated for, I think, 4 years and got married. Wow. So my mom I think my mom had me at 33 and my youngest brother at 34, 35. So.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lesson to take away
blueprint.
from that, you guys. Go on the date.
Yeah.
It might not work out with the person you're on the date with, but it gets you to the place and maybe someone else is there on another date too.
Isn't that crazy?
That is wild.
And I think it's just like it was borderline player behavior, but he did it in a very respectful way. And it wasn't like it was long-term girlfriend. Yeah. And that was that. That's how they met.
Oh my God. And there's so much of you in that story too. Like your personality, it like so comes from what you've learned from them, I feel like.
That's so sweet.
It's
you put
beautiful.
that so well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely, I am a mix of their personalities for sure.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'll never get over that. That's so cool.
So
oh my
fun.
God.
That's like my favorite story.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you were hoping to share?
Honestly, like that was, I think we covered everything. We
Yay.
talked about living situation. We talked about dating. Yeah.
Amazing.
That was great.
Okay, then I have one last question.
Okay.
Favorite question to ask at the end of every episode.
Okay.
What is the best piece of dating or relationship advice that you've ever received or have to give?
Best piece of advice, simplest, brutally honest piece of advice. You will know how someone feels about you. It is abundantly clear. If they like you, they really like you. If it's confusing, 9 times out of 10, if it's repeatedly confusing, then there's your answer. It shouldn't be confusing.
It shouldn't be hard.
It shouldn't be hard. Things come up, life happens. If it's a one-off thing or like that is a different story. But if you find yourself continually asking date after date, text after text, if they care about you, then there's your answer.
That also feels terrible.
It feels horrible.
And
we've all been there.
We've all been there, and we end up making up excuses to make ourselves feel a little bit better, but we don't want to feel that way.
No, it's just one of those things where you have to really hold on to your worth and be like, okay, the right person, I will know, absolutely have no doubt in my mind that they want to be with me, want to spend time with me. Yeah.
And there's no better feeling than that.
That is good.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Piper Phillips on Instagram, at Piper Cassidy Phillips on TikTok, and piperphillips.com.
Guys, follow her. Seriously. She's one of the best follows, and I feel like it's impossible to watch any of her videos and not smile.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I was thinking about that on my walk to get the coffee earlier. I was like, yeah, like, just you, like I said before, like, you just radiate positivity, and it's so wonderful. So thank you for putting everything you put out there.
Well, it takes one to know one. Thank you for having me, Alana.
Of course.